Here, this is one of those brain teasers you could always pull on anybody. I've pulled this brain teaser on some of the best photographers out there, literally. And just ask your buddy or fellow photographer. It's like, hey, what's the difference between a really good prime lens and a really good zoom lens? It's like, yeah, why own a prime lens? See what their answer is. Have them think about it for a second. Say, well, you mean because there are, plenty of modern crummy prime lenses. God, that latest Nikkor lens, that 105 1.4. I mean, oh Lord, what a piece of poo that is. Just horrible. But I'm talking about a real, hardcore prime lens, like a Voigtlander, a Zeiss, Cassina, a Leica, Summicron, Summilux. It's like, why would someone spend like $4,000 or $5,000? Not usually that high, but a couple thousand, $1,200 for Cassina Voigtlander, Zeiss lens. Why would they do that? And a lot of prime lenses today are over-designed, and they're not really much better than a zoom lens. Just ask somebody. The best that they'll come up with will say, well, it's a better lens. It renders better. It's like, why? So this is always how you'll corral them. Because this is what they'll always say. If they ever spit out anything, it's like, you got a 35mm prime lens there, Bob. Like, yeah, I do. It's a pretty expensive lens. Whatever make it is. Let's say it's a good 35mm. You also got a bunch of zoom lenses that cover 35. Yeah, I do. Okay, Bob. So why would you ever grab for that 35mm prime lens? Well, I like the images out of it better. Oh, was that so, Bob? Okay. Well, why do you like the images better out of it? Well, what's that prime 35mm got that your zoom that covers 35mm focal? What's it got? Well, I just like the image. But yeah, but why do you like the images from it better? Well, it renders better. They'll always fall down the same funnel. It's like the perfect trap. Sometimes like you set a trap, the little animal won't take the bait. But anytime you ask this question, and this is a Platonic methodology, praise all the Ptolemy to Plato, Pythagoras, Plotinus, and the ancient Greek Platonists. They'll always fall down the rabbit hole, the same trap. Say, oh, it renders better, Bob. Yeah, they'll always follow this line of thinking. Yeah, but why does it render better? Well, I don't know. It's just a prime lens. That's what prime lenses do. It's like, well, that's the description, Bob. What's the explanation? Why does the prime lens render better? Well, it's expensive prime lens. It's designed to render better. They'll waffle around the same statement. They'll just rehash it and reword the same statement because they can't go any deeper down the trap, even though they're already in the trap. It's like, well, you don't know the answer, and that's okay, Bob. I'm not trying to upset you or anything, but why do you think that prime lens renders better? What is it? They're both sharp, and sharpness is certainly not everything. Rendering is everything. A lens is not sharpness. A lens is the totality of what it is capable of rendering. And rendering is everything. It's kind of like you can't judge a car about how fast it is, because there's some cars out there that are really fast. Like motorcycles, for example. I used to ride motorcycles. There's some motorcycles out there that are like insanely fast, but they're dangerous or not built well. It's like, well, yeah, that motorcycle's really fast. It's also a piece of crap. So, so both lenses are sharp, so it can't be sharpness. So what is it that you like about that lens? Typically people say, well, it's faster. I like the shallow depth of field. It's like, well, that's not what's making that lens better. I mean, that's a characteristic of a lens that gives you the composition that you want, like shallow depth of field for portraiture. Because typically zoom lenses don't render at 1.8, 1.4, 1.2. Obviously, you know that, I know that. So it's not the aperture. Because I know that's what you're going to say. That's what Bob's going to say. Well, I can't get a zoom lens that will render at... They're still falling down the trap. It'll render at f1.8, 1.4, 1.2. It's like, you're right there, Bob. But that's not why that lens is rendering better. Because you could stick that prime lens at, say, f4, same aperture as the zoom lens, and, it'll still bust the butt of the zoom lens. One of Bob's like, sure will. Yep. That's why I bought that lens. So they just keep falling down the hole. And then ultimately you will have them cornered. Because they will be in a hole so deep, and they will always fall down this hole. You just say, okay, so it renders better. And it's not, we've established it's not about the aperture. Because if you shoot both of them at f4, for example, prime will outdo it. So what is it that a prime lens has that a zoom lens, really good zoom lens, really good prime lens, Didn't say it's the best prime lens. They didn't say it was the best zoom lens. Actually, you could technically say the very best zoom lens versus a very good prime lens. Not an awesome prime lens, just a very good one. The very good prime will outdo the very best zoom. And they'll all be down the hole. You have them totally coordinated. It's like, well, it obviously renders better, so it must have something to do with something about a prime lens that a zoom lens does not have. It's like, yeah, that seems to follow there. Well, let's follow that train of reasoning. Bob? This is how you destroy people in debates, too. I've been debating for a long time. It's like, well, we know it's rendering. We know it's not the aperture. We know they're both sharp, you know, and we both can agree that rendering is not sharpness. You can drag the sharpness slider in Lightroom on anything. So what is it you think about that 35 millimeters? Well, it must be something to do with control. Well, typically it's the difference between a prime lens and a zoom lens. Typically, zoom lenses got a lot of glass in them. Typically, they do. That's a true statement. Some 1970s, 1980s zoom lenses don't have a lot of glass in them. They also render kind of like prime lenses. There's not many good ones, though. Zoom lenses improve dramatically in resolution, but they've lost in the other end of the spectrum. So it's like, well, so it has to do something to do with that, you know, because the zoom lens got a lot of glass in it, and that prime lens doesn't. Now, there are a lot of prime lenses today, as I've complained, that render like a zoom lens, and people that buy them are idiots. Now, I'm not talking about wide angles, because when you talk about 35 millimeter, below 35 millimeter, like 28 millimeter, 24, 20, that's a different class of prime lenses. We're talking about conventional primes, 35 millimeter to 600 millimeter, basically. Why do these lenses render better? Must have something to do with number of much glass is in that thing. Yeah, well, how would that render better, you know? Because zoom's correct for a lot of chromatic aberration and vignetting, so a really, really good prime lens will have vignetting and some, you know, the best. I got a lot of Zeiss lenses, and they got a lot of chromatic aberration, so that can't be why people love and praise Zeiss. Must be something else. Micro contrast. So that's how you destroy anybody. And it's not about destroying them, it's about getting them to realize something. Because they will always fall in that trap. You will always have them pinned in that trap. There's only one path. It's not like we can go around the trap when you ask them this question. You know, they can go above it or below it. No, they will always fall in that trap. So next time someone, you know, you want to figure out or have a debate with somebody about primes and lens versus zoom lens, and people don't know this stuff, and not knowing stuff is okay. I'm not against people being ignorant of stuff. It's about a thirst for knowledge. You know what's more valuable than a person that, excuse me, I was about to say that there's actually nothing more valuable than a really ignorant person. Well, actually, there's nothing more valuable than a really wise person, but right below that is someone who's quite ignorant but has an insatiable lust to learn and understand. A really ignorant person that wants to learn is far more valuable than a smart person who thinks they know it all. And of course, this is what college spits out. It's a bunch of educated dumbasses. College is famous for doing one thing, producing a lot of highly educated idiots. You know, they think they know everything. In reality, they don't know shit. They're totally ignorant, but they think that since they have a degree hanging on the wall, they must know something. And of course, these people run much of the world, and which is why the world's going to hell in a handbasket, because people are idiots. Got a bunch of college-educated morons. You know, all they were taught how to do was actually how to pass tests, not actually how to learn things or how to think rationally. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you like these videos, you can always click the link below, make a small donation, because I am not a shill or a schmuck for any company, and I don't have affiliate links. You could think that's a holier-than-thou attitude, but I frankly don't care, because it is nevertheless the true case of the matter. Thank you. Bye. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 da-dum, bum, 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 bum.